The connection was terrible, crackling with static, but my brother's smug voice came through clearly enough. They won't even notice the money's gone, Sarah. They barely know what day it is anymore. I gripped my phone tighter, the humid African air suddenly feeling suffocating. 10,000 miles from home, standing outside a rural medical clinic in Uganda. I was listening to my brother brag about stealing from our elderly parents. "How much did you take, David?" I asked, keeping my voice steady despite the rage building inside me. He laughed, that familiar dismissive laugh I'd grown to hate. "All of it. Their savings, retirement accounts, everything. About 3 million total. Consider it my inheritance, just a little early. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and at 34, I was facing a crisis I never imagined. I'd spent the last year working with Doctors Without Borders, setting up medical clinics in underserved communities. Meanwhile, my younger brother had been systematically draining our parents' life savings, taking advantage of their declining mental health. "They're our parents, David," I said quietly. "How could you do this to them?" "Oh, spare me the moral high ground," he sneered. "You're the one who abandoned them to play hero in Africa. At least I've been here, checking on them every week." Checking on them. Right? More like manipulating them, gaining their trust while I was away. Mom's calls over the past few months have been increasingly confused, mentioning strange bank transfers and missing statements. I should have seen it sooner. "I'm coming home," I told him. "Don't bother," he replied. "By the time you get here, the money will be long gone. And who do you think they'll believe? Their devoted son who visits every week, or their absent daughter who couldn't even come home for Christmas?" The call ended abruptly, leaving me standing in the African heat, my mind racing. David thought he had won, thought his months of careful manipulation had given him the upper hand. What he didn't know was that I'd been 10 steps ahead of him for months. 6 months earlier, during a rare visit home, I'd noticed something off about our parents' behavior. Dad, once sharp as a tack, was struggling to remember basic details about their finances. Mom kept mentioning David's helpful suggestions about consolidating their accounts. That's when I called Grace, my best friend and one of the top financial crimes attorneys in Boston. "Someone's isolating them," she'd said after reviewing their bank statements, moving their money around, changing their account access. Classic signs of elder financial abuse. I'd spent that visit quietly gathering evidence, copies of suspicious transfers, recordings of my parents' confusion, documentation of David's sudden involvement in their finances. Then I put safeguards in place that he knew nothing about. Now, as I walked back into the clinic where I'd been working, my phone buzzed with a text from Grace. "It's done. Everything we documented has been sent to the FBI's Elder Fraud Division. They're moving on the accounts now." I smiled, thinking of David's confidence, his certainty that he'd gotten away with it. He had no idea that every transaction he'd made had been monitored, every document he'd forged had been logged, every manipulation had been recorded. My colleague, Dr. Chen, looked up from his patient charts as I entered. "Everything okay? You look worried." "It will be," I said, pulling on fresh gloves. "My brother just made a very big mistake." The next few hours were a blur of patients and procedures, but my mind kept drifting back to Boston. Grace would be executing our plan now, freezing accounts, filing emergency petitions, setting everything in motion. During my lunch break, I checked my email to find updates from our team of specialists: the forensic accountant who traced David's money movements, the elder care attorney who documented our parents' declining capacity, the private investigator who tracked David's suspicious spending patterns. "Your brother's been busy," the PI's report noted. "New car, luxury apartment, expensive watches. Classic signs of someone burning through stolen money fast." I thought about David sitting in his new apartment, probably congratulating himself on his clever scheme. He'd always been the manipulative one, using charm and lies to get what he wanted. Growing up, he convinced our parents that his every failure was someone else's fault. Now he was taking advantage of their mental decline to steal everything they had. Grace called as I was finishing my shift. "The FBI is very interested," she said without preamble. "The evidence is overwhelming. Systematic elder abuse, fraud, theft. They're building a case for federal charges." "How long?" I asked, stepping outside into the cooling evening air. "A few days to freeze everything, maybe a week to bring charges." "But Sarah, there's something else. The forensic accountant found other victims." My heart sank. "What do you mean?" Your brother's been running investment scams, small ones at first, targeting other elderly people in your parents' social circle. We've identified at least 12 victims so far. I closed my eyes, feeling sick. How much? Another 2 million, approximately. He used your parents' reputation in the community to gain trust. Convince people to invest in fake business ventures. The magnitude of David's crimes was staggering. This wasn't just opportunistic theft from our parents. It was a calculated scheme that had probably been years in the making. What about our parents? I asked. Are they safe? I've arranged for a geriatric care manager to check on them daily, and have filed for emergency guardianship to protect them from further exploitation. The hearing is next week. I looked at my calendar, at the patients scheduled for upcoming surgeries. I need to come home. The clinic can spare you for a few weeks, Dr. Chen said, making me jump. I hadn't heard him approach. Family emergencies take priority. The next 24 hours were a whirlwind of arrangements. My replacement was briefed, my patients were transferred, and my flight was booked. As I packed my bags, I received another call, this time from the FBI agent handling the case. Ms. Mitchell, she said, her voice professional but kind. I want you to know we're moving quickly. Your brother's assets have been frozen, and we're preparing to execute search warrants. But there's something you should be prepared for. What is it? Based on our preliminary investigation, a significant portion of the money is already gone. Spent on luxury items, gambling, high-risk investments that failed. Recovery may be limited. I sat down on my bed, absorbing this. How much is left? Of the 5 million total. Maybe 2 million, if we're lucky. We'll do everything we can to recover assets, but I understand, I said quietly. Thank you for being honest. After hanging up, I opened my laptop and logged into my own banking accounts. The numbers that greeted me represented 10 years of careful saving, of living modestly despite my doctor's salary, of investing wisely and planning for the future. I had enough, not to replace everything David had stolen, but enough to ensure our parents would be taken care of. It wasn't the retirement they planned, but they wouldn't lose their home or go without care. My phone buzzed again. Another text from David, his tone still smugly confident. About the new Porsche today. You should see it, sis. This is the life I was meant for. I didn't respond. Let him enjoy his last few days of freedom. Let him think he'd won. The truth would hit him soon enough. The flight from Uganda to Boston was long, giving me time to think about how things had gone so wrong. David had always been the troubled one, dropping out of college, bouncing between jobs, living off our parents' generosity. But I never imagined he'd go this far. I landed at Logan Airport to find Grace waiting for me, looking crisp and professional despite the early hour. The warrants are being executed right now, she said as we walked to her car. FBI agents are at his apartment, his office, everywhere he might have hidden assets. Does he know yet? He's about to. They're letting him finish his breakfast at that fancy cafe he likes before they move in. Apparently, he's a regular there, always bragging about his financial success. I thought about David sitting there, sipping his expensive coffee, having no idea that his world was about to implode. What about our parents? I asked as Grace navigated through Boston traffic. How are they? Her expression softened. Confused. Upset. The care manager says they keep asking about David, wondering why he hasn't visited this week. They don't fully understand what's happening. That was both a blessing and a curse. Their cognitive decline had made them vulnerable to David's manipulation, but it also meant they might be spared the full pain of his betrayal. We pulled up to my parents' house, the beautiful colonial where I'd grown up, just as another car was leaving. Through the window, I glimpsed David's expensive watch, his new designer suit. Perfect timing, Grace murmured. The FBI is 3 minutes away. We'll be even from a distance. I could see the moment reality hit him. His face drained of color, his shoulders slumped, and the casual arrogance he'd worn like armor finally cracked. As the agents led him away in handcuffs, he looked toward our parents' house and saw me watching. For a moment, our eyes met. I saw shock, then anger, then something close to fear. Able to see the whole show. Sure enough, moments later, 3 black SUVs pulled up behind David's Porsche. I watched through Grace's car window as agents approached him, their badges glinting in the morning sun. I stepped out of the car, letting him see me clearly. Enjoy prison, David, I said quietly, though I knew he couldn't hear me. You earned it. The weeks following David's arrest were a blur of legal meetings, medical appointments, and difficult conversations. Our parents' condition was worse than I'd realized, not just normal aging, but early-stage dementia that David had exploited. They need full-time care, Dr. Harrison, their geriatrician, explained gently. The stress of this situation has accelerated their decline. I sat in her office, reviewing their test results. What are our options? There were excellent memory care facilities, but they're expensive. Given the financial situation, money won't be an issue, I interrupted. I'll make sure they get the best care available. That afternoon, I met with my financial advisor to restructure my investments. Between selling my condo in Boston and liquidating some long-term savings, I could ensure our parents' care for years to come. Are you sure about this? Grace asked when I told her my plans. You're giving up your own security. They're my parents, I said simply. And after what David did to them, I'm the only one they have left. The FBI's investigation revealed the full scope of David's crimes. Beyond stealing from our parents, he targeted elderly people throughout their social circle, using our family's good name to gain trust. The scheme had been elaborate: fake investment documents, forged signatures, manipulated bank statements. Your brother's looking at serious federal time, the lead investigator told me. The evidence is overwhelming. I visited David in jail once, a week after his arrest. He sat across from me in his orange jumpsuit, his designer clothes and expensive watch replaced by prison basics. Come to gloat? He asked bitterly. No, I replied. I came to understand why. They loved you, David. Supported you through everything. How could you do this to them? He laughed, a hollow, ugly sound. They were going to waste it all on nursing homes and medical care. I deserve that money. I'm their son. And I'm their daughter, I said quietly. The difference is, I wanted to take care of them, not steal from them. His expression darkened. You think you're so perfect, don't you? Saint Sarah, the doctor, the humanitarian. Well, guess what? While you were saving strangers in Africa, I was here, watching them decline, realizing they'd spend every penny on staying alive a few more miserable years. I stood up disgusted. You're right about one thing. I was in Africa, helping people. But I was also watching you, documenting everything, making sure you couldn't destroy our family. Goodbye, David. Enjoy the next 15 to 20 years. As I walked out, he called after me. They won't even remember who you are soon. What's the point of sacrificing everything for people who won't know you? I didn't turn around, but his words haunted me. Not because he was right, but because he so fundamentally misunderstood what family meant. The next few months were focused on settling our parents into Sunrise Gardens, one of the best memory care facilities in Massachusetts. Their confusion about David's absence was painful to witness, but the staff were skilled at redirecting their anxiety. They're adjusting well, Susan, their primary care nurse, told me during my daily visit. Having you here so often helps. I'd taken a leave of absence from Doctors Without Borders, renting a small apartment near the facility. My parents might not always remember I was their daughter, but they knew I was someone who cared, someone who made them feel safe. Grace helped me navigate the legal aftermath of David's crimes. Some of the stolen money was recovered, but most have been spent or lost in bad investments. The victims from the community were devastated, not just financially but emotionally. We trusted him because of your parents, Mrs. Peterson, our former neighbor, said tearfully when I visited to apologize. They were such good people. We never imagined. I ended up organizing a support group for David's victims, connecting them with financial advisors and elder care attorneys who could help them rebuild. It wasn't much, but it was something. One evening, as I sat with Mom during dinner, she had a moment of clarity. Sarah, she said, reaching for my hand. You're taking care of us, aren't you? I squeezed her hand gently. Yes, Mom. I am. But what about your work, your life? This is my life right now, I told her. Being here with you and Dad. She frowned slightly. David, he did something bad, didn't he? I remember being scared about money. Don't worry about that, I said softly. Everything's taken care of now. Her moment of lucidity passed, but the conversation stayed with me. Grace visited one Sunday, bringing coffee and her usual straight talk. You need to think about your future, she said as we sat in the facility's garden, watching Dad enjoy the sunshine. You can't put your whole life on hold indefinitely. I'm not, I replied. I'm just reprioritizing. She gave me a knowing look. Sarah, you've given up your condo, your savings, your career in international medicine. That's more than reprioritizing. What was I supposed to do? Let them end up in some underfunded state facility? Let David win? No, she said gently. But there might be a middle ground. What if you could find a way to continue your work while still being there for them? Her words got me thinking. The next day, I reached out to several local hospitals about positions in their international health departments. To my surprise, Boston General was looking for someone to coordinate their global health initiatives, a role that would let me use my experience while staying close to home. The interview was scheduled for the following week. As I prepared for it, I received an unexpected letter from David. Dear Sarah, it began. Prison gives you a lot of time to think. I've been thinking about what you said during your visit, about family and sacrifice and doing the right thing. I didn't get it then. Maybe I'm starting to now. I know it doesn't change anything, but I'm sorry. Not just for the money, but for making you give up everything to fix what I broke. I folded the letter carefully and put it away. Maybe it was genuine remorse, maybe it was just another manipulation. Either way, it didn't change my path forward. The interview at Boston General went well. They offered me the position, along with flexibility to balance work with my parents' care. It wasn't the same as being in the field, but it was a way to continue making a difference while honoring my family obligations. 1 year after David's arrest, I sat in my new office at Boston General, reviewing proposals for international medical partnerships. Photos of my parents covered my desk, old ones from when they were young and vibrant, newer ones showing peaceful moments at Sunrise Gardens. Grace stopped by with lunch, a weekly tradition we'd started. You seem happy, she observed. More settled. I thought about everything that had changed. My life looked nothing like I planned, but somehow it felt right. I replied. It's not the path I expected, but it's the right one. You know, she said carefully, some of David's assets were finally liquidated. The FBI recovered more than they expected. It's not much, but it might let you recoup some of what you spent on your parents' care. I shook my head. Keep it for the other victims. They lost their security, their trust in people. They need it more than I do. Grace smiled. I knew you'd say that. That's why I already filed the paperwork to create a victim compensation fund. That evening, I visited my parents as usual. Mom was having one of her good days, recognizing me immediately. My beautiful girl, she said, hugging me. Always taking care of everyone. I learned from the best, I told her. As I watched them at dinner, Dad carefully helping Mom with her food, both of them still showing such tenderness despite their struggles. I thought about David's words in prison. What's the point of sacrificing everything for people who won't know you? He'd never understood that love isn't about recognition or reward. It's about doing what's right, about honoring the people who gave you life and love, about standing up when others try to cause harm. My phone buzzed with a text from Grace. Victim Compensation Fund is official. You're on the board of directors. No arguments. I smiled, thinking about how life has a way of leading you exactly where you need to be, even if it's not where you plan to go. David had tried to destroy our family for money. Instead, he'd given me the opportunity to show what family really means: sacrifice, love, and the strength to do what's right even when it's hard. As I helped my parents back to their room, Mom grabbed my hand suddenly. Sarah, she said, her eyes clear and bright for a moment. You're a good daughter. The best daughter. The words brought tears to my eyes, not because I needed to hear them, but because even in her confusion, even after everything that had happened, my mother's love still shone through. Thank you, Mom, I whispered. I learned from the best parents. Later that night, as I walked to my car, I thought about the journey of the past year. I lost my savings, changed my career, and completely restructured my life. But I'd gained something too, a deeper understanding of what matters, of what it means to be family. David might spend years in prison regretting his choices, or he might never truly understand what he'd done wrong. Either way, I knew I'd made the right choice, because sometimes the biggest victories come not from what we gain, but from what we're willing to give up for love.